3,500 probably, we don't know exact figure, nuclear warheads were taken out of Ukraine before anybody noticed, essentially. And that really made it kind of everything else which came after much easier. Because that was probably the most dangerous, the most crucial part of the problem, resolved and generally unheralded achievement by Shaposhnikov at that stage. Very soon after he disappeared from the arena, and two other professionals came in, and one of them was Sergeyev, who in some years would also to become Russia's defense minister, and again, not very successful one. At that particular moment, and he was a missile man, through and through. And one thing he understood perfectly was the intercontinental ballistic missiles, and tasks with them were enormous because, you know, missiles produced in Russia were deployed in Ukraine, missiles produced in Ukraine deployed in Russia. You need to service all these missiles. You need to make sure that missiles which are deployed in Ukraine are unusable and at the same time safe. All these technicalities, he understood them perfectly well. It was probably he understood less well the things about the strategic air bombers, but at least it was very fortunate that the bombers of both types deployed in Ukraine were produced in Russia, in Kazan and Samara, and missiles for this aircraft were produced in a plant in Moscow. It was very difficult for Ukraine really to service them. But with nuclear missiles, Sergeyev was the man who understood the situation perfectly well and really kind of step by step was there through the whole process. And the third professional I would want to praise is Dubinin, Ambassador Dubinin. And he is a career diplomat. He was an ambassador to the United States, the pinnacle of a career in every Soviet diplomat. And after that, head of the Russian negotiating team with Ukraine, which looked like a big step down for a diplomat. And it wasn't probably, in fact, the main achievement of his diplomatic career. He was a superb negotiator. And he was very able on every turn of the talks to outplay his Ukrainian counterpart, Kostenko, showing him, you know, that's your declaration of independence and that's what's written here, that's what you're saying now. And that's what your president said a few months ago, that's what you're saying now. If this is your personal opinion, it's a very interesting one. We are not discussing personal opinions here. So this kind of game continued very forcefully, but he played a crucial role through the whole process. But probably I don't need to praise him very much. He's perfectly able to do it himself, and he does. What I want generally to kind of wrap up my kind of short presentation here with is the point that unlike in Ukraine, in Russia, this issue was never enmeshed in internal political struggle. And internal political struggle in Russia generally was far more intense than Ukraine. They never thought about shooting parliaments with tanks, and in Russia that was indeed the case in the middle of all this process in October '93.
We saw TV.
Yes. So you might imagine that that particular kind of struggle of this intensity could have touched on any matter. This essentially was outside. No political force in Russia showed any interest in interfering in this talk. Dubinin had a free hand to play his game, and even Yeltsin himself was too much preoccupied with these domestic things to interfere in these talks, and it also helped.